Hello and welcome into a December 30th pod here on the Rundown with Caleb and Casey. It's been a couple weeks. The last one we recorded was the Thursday afternoon of the Cyhawk men's basketball game. So that puts it into perspective. That was a while ago. We really have had a tough time with consistency lately, Casey, but I have a feeling that once this next semester starts for us, we'll be back on a weekly basis as much as possible. But I understand as the fans, you want to hear from us every week. You want to hear from us every day. We know that. We can't do that. But happy to be back today in the studio on the StreamYard machine. We've got a football team that is in major transition mode. We've got an undefeated basketball team heading into conference play. We've got lots of topics across the board to hit on. Casey Schiessler, his subtitle here on the StreamYard machine is Basketball School. How are you today, my friend?
We are great. I mean, there's no other way to look at it for me right now. One, I now attend a school with no football program, just basketball. Two, Iowa State has no football roster right now, just basketball. And three, Kansas is Kansas. So anyway, you cut the cookie, man. It's a great time to be a basketball fan. It's a great time of year. You know, it was really boring last couple of days. I was watching NBA because there's no college games on. And finally, this week, I can't wait to just sit down and not do anything but watch college football playoffs, some bowl games with teams that people probably don't know exist, and college basketball all day, man.
Hey, it's a good slate. And you know what? I get it, very much in basketball mode at this point, mainly because of the main schools you cheer for / attend. But cannot forget about our Hawaii Rainbow Warriors doing it in their bowl game. Who'd they beat? Was it Cal? Yeah. Beat the Golden Bears. So at the very least, we have that going for us.
And their QB's coming back next year. Michael Alejado he's coming back, and he killed it this year, dude.
Demonstrating some rare loyalty in the big 2025. There's not much of that anymore.
Not anymore, man.
But there is at Hawaii, which is understandable. I don't know why people would really want to leave there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that I suppose is a good segue to get us into the football component of the show. The Jimmy Rogers era has officially begun at Iowa State. He's hired most of his staff for the new program. So that's good. You've got that building block now. I checked this morning, Cyclone Fanatic. I'm sure you've seen it too. They have a really nice transfer portal transfer tracker on their front page on their website. As of this morning, probably an hour or so before recording this pod, 42 guys have announced they are transferring out of Iowa State's program. 11 have announced they are staying. There's so much nuance to this conversation, Casey. I feel like it's hard to really even, we haven't obviously recorded in a few weeks now, so we've kind of missed a good bit of what's happened, right? You had obviously the Rocco Becht announcement, and then everybody kind of started to trickle from that point forward, and then you have a couple guys announcing they're staying, and I'll start by saying I didn't really expect this many guys to enter the portal. That's my first takeaway. Maybe I'm naive for thinking that. I fully expected your Rocco Becks of the world, your Ben Bramers of the world, your Jeremiah Coopers, Jontez Williams to follow Matt Campbell to Penn State with his staff. That was 100% an expectation. I didn't really expect for, some of these more, I don't know what you call them, kind of the fringe starters, the guys that were maybe key contributors at times. Like, for instance, a Carson Van Dinter who announced his intention to transfer this morning. That's one I wouldn't have expected to leave, because I don't think Carson Van Dinter, and I don't mean to just single him out, I don't think that's a guy who's going to Penn State. And I think there's a lot of guys who are transferring that are most definitely not going to Penn State. And so that's where it's been a surprise for me. But I think it also speaks to just the nature of the sport in the year 2025. What say you on this specific topic?
Yeah, I was kind of playing around because I had filled out, obviously, I'd gone through and highlighted a bunch of guys that I thought were, going to stay or going to leave. And so far, I mean, it's fairly right. I missed out on one or two, but a lot of like these hometown guys, I kind of like Eskeldson. I thought him and his brother would stay put, with his brother just committing here. He's kind of not far from here. Haven't got through the whole thing, but I mean, a lot of it makes sense. You look at a lot of these guys with like 1 year left, your Bramers, your Burkles, a lot of the O linemen. It's like, you don't really know what you're getting. And especially as a senior, when you have this opportunity to kind of go to a program that you are seeing, like with a coaching staff that's been there for a while, how Iowa State was before this, like, what you're getting. Like if you're an O lineman, if you're a running back, if you're a tight end, if you're a linebacker, you know what you're getting. Secondary, like everyone knows what they're getting. Program's been here for a while. Coaching staff's been there for a while. I'm going to go play my last year there. That's kind of what comes to my mind. And I think that, it's to be expected. It sucks. It's definitely, when you start looking at the numbers of it, it's crazy to think about. And how they're going to rebuild this new roster is interesting, but you've got some good pieces to build around. And I think the big one for me is Connor Moberly. And people are like, well, you kept your QB3. How good's that? I think Connor Moberly's great. I mean, he's one of 2 QBs left with Big 12 championship game experience in the conference. So there's that. And I mean, it's tough, but you look at it, it makes sense. It's going to be hopefully an exciting mid-January to see a lot of, it may not be your 4 stars or go these big names flipping to Iowa State, but you're going to get some talented guys and some guys that are really going to take leaps that we aren't expecting.
That's the big thing. I'm glad you mentioned that, because the psychology of this is crazy. Nobody's dealt with it before. Iowa State fans have never had to deal with this, right? We've kind of been – I've heard some people compare Iowa State football to kind of being in Mayberry for the last, 10 years. Matt Campbell has done a really good job of sheltering Iowa State from the greater changes in college football and college sports in general. Like Iowa State, amidst all the turmoil in college football, has stayed relatively the same until now, right? So now we all are experiencing this firsthand. So, but the psychology of it is like, everybody's losing their minds right now. All the fans are losing their minds. What is happening? Does Jimmy Rogers know how to retain a roster? These guys have no loyalty at all, right? All this stuff. I guarantee that once the portal opens, once guys start transferring into this program, right? Jimmy Rogers and his staff start to bring guys in from Washington State or Toledo or the North and South Dakotas of the world, all these schools. No matter how good the talent is that comes in, a lot of the narrative will change. It'll be like, okay, we've got some ball players that are coming into the program. We've got some dudes. There will be some excitement, for right or wrong, going into next year. I think it'd be really dumb of us to really have any sort of expectations for next year. I'm not saying I think Iowa State's going to go, 2-10, 3-9, like some people out there are already projecting. I don't think you have any way of projecting that right now. But I don't think it'd be smart to go out and say that Iowa State is going to, get 7 or 8 wins next year, right? It's just hard to say. But you're right. This is how it works. Coach leaves. You choose to hire from the outside, which Jamie Pollard did. Jimmy Rogers. I don't think we can really make a judgment on whether or not that was the right call right now, because Jimmy Rogers has not been able to bring in his guys. He hasn't been able to coach a game yet. You got to give him at least a season or so and see how it plays out. But this is how it goes, right? Most of your team transfers out. They either follow Matt Campbell or go elsewhere. You're right. For that final year of stability with a program that already has a staff in place, you know what you're getting. And then you bring in a bunch of new guys, and there is going to be some excitement around the guys that come in, right? I mean, I'm sure you've been seeing it too. There's already some speculation that Jalen Rayner could potentially be coming to Iowa State, the Arkansas State quarterback, who almost beat the Cyclones this year because Jimmy Rogers just hired his offensive coordinator to be the quarterback's coach here. So that's a possibility, right? That would get people very excited. And you're right. Like, I'm super pumped about Connor Moberly. A guy who wants to stick around. He grew up a Cyclone fan. That's a key building block, and to retain Kyle Conrarty is bigger than people realize too. That guy was probably going to be a top 5 kicker in the sport going into this next year, and you keep him on your team. Listen, I think this Jimmy Rogers defense is going to be good. I think he's a defensive head coach. If you can stop opposing teams, and Connor Moberly / Jalen Rayner can get you to the 40-yard line every time, you got a guy that can boot it through the uprights, you're going to win some football games. As funny as that kind of sounds, you could play around with the Kyle Conrarty thing. And yeah, it's way too early to really make any sort of expectations right now, but it definitely does. All the while, it does suck. It sucks for the fans. It just goes to show loyalty these days is more so around the head coach than it is around the program. And in some cases, money too. A lot of these guys are probably going to go out and get paid a lot more than they were at Iowa State. And on the flip side, some are going to go out thinking they're going to get paid a lot more and probably get paid less. So we'll see. You got to let the dust settle and make a read on all this once, there's been time to really see how it all plays out.
Yeah, and I was like looking around at some other schools that are like losing head coaches, and it's, USF has already lost 11 guys and Tulane has lost 15 guys, and stuff like that. And then you think these guys are still in bowl games. Tulane was just in the playoff a week ago. Guys really haven't had the time to sit down and think about it. And they're at a point where they have lost more before they've had that time to sit down and think about it than Iowa State was. I think really before our guys had the time to sit down and think about it and talk like with their family, what we lose? Three or four players.
Yeah.
So, and on the flip side, Tulane's got 15 guys already gone, and they just finished playing. They're probably sitting down this week, starting to talk with family, talk with the coaches and stuff like that. That's going to be a multi-day process. Like, you're going to see these other numbers jump up. I understand for Iowa State, it's a lot more, but also your coach just left and took a bigger job, right? You've got to take that with a grain of salt. A new staff comes in. It's a new offense too. And it's going to be, from what I hear, like a heavy ground and pound physical kind of offense, which might help Conrarty too. If your defense is out there, less possessions, it's almost like that Army Navy way of playing, where we're going to take up a huge chunk of time, go score. If you answer back, even if you do it quick, we're just going to eat out the rest of the quarter. And then we're going to eat into the next one. And that might be in your benefit, to where we get into some late games and all we need is Kyle Conrarty, who has been fantastic in and outside of Ames at just knocking down field goals from 50. 54 is his lucky number. So keep getting him to that spot, or even within, and, let this injury rehab properly. And you have got a top 5 kicker in the sport on an Iowa State roster, and a guy that the fans love is a big thing, because there's a lot of these big names, like you mentioned, Bramer's gone, Burkle's gone, Jeremiah Cooper's gone, Rocco Beck's gone. Sama's the only running back that hasn't announced he's leaving so far. Overby's the only guy in the receiver room right now.
Right.
Guys that, they're liked, but the fans don't love them as much. To keep a guy like Conrarty is big for morale, especially in the fans and stuff like that. And we'll get new guys, that we fall in love with. And I think I've already said it before, Moberly's going to be great. I think it's going to take him a little bit to adapt, but I think he's really good at his role. But a lot of these guys, I'm excited to see where they go. There's not a guy that I look at that I'm like, oh, I'm not going to care about what you do. There's a lot of these guys, whether they go play for App State, like JJ Cole did, and take that 1 year and bounce back up. Like, he's a guy that I've watched play when he was at App State. I liked what he did. I'm going to keep watching his career because they're Cyclones, and you have that appeal to watch them and see them succeed because they come from your program. Although it's not the same as them succeeding with us, I think it's so great when a guy starts out with you, and as long as they leave on amicable terms, like, it's always great to see them succeed.
Yeah, I think to me, one of the major bummers here is Iowa State really over the last few years started to get a ton of momentum in the state of Iowa in terms of high school recruiting, right? you were bringing in, you were beating out Iowa for some really key guys, which had never happened before. And Matt Campbell and his staff finally had gained that foothold in the state and were able to get, guys like an Abu Sama, like a Jamison Patton, like an Alex
Zay
Manthey.
Robinson.
Yeah, exactly. Zay Robinson, big one, right? It's probably going to take the Jimmy Rogers staff a while to build that back up, right? All those relationships are gone with those high schools that had relationships with Matt Campbell and his staff, which is a bummer, right? And it's key that guys like Connor Moberly are sticking around and some of those other in-state guys to kind of bridge that gap. That was something that Iowa State really just improved on so much in the Campbell era, is recruiting in-state, which they'd never done before. So I hope that the Rogers staff can get back to that at some point. I think they really are going, like you said, they're going to be a tough defensive-oriented team, really physical, run the football a lot. So I think they're going to recruit a lot in the upper Midwest, which is going to be Iowa, the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin. That's how they should do it. That's how I think Iowa State should always recruit. You're not going to beat out too many of the schools down south for the Texas, the Florida guys of the world. You might get a few good ones here and there, but overall that part of it does kind of suck. But you're already bringing in, we're already seeing a bunch of commits from the 26 class from Washington State flip to Iowa State, right? So you're bringing in the 26 class. It sounds like there's still going to be some guys from the Iowa State 26 class that are going to stay committed, which is big to keep that going, right? The Rogers staff has re-recruited those guys, which is big. And the Clones are going to have a football team next year, believe it or not. Some people, can't see that right now, and it might be hard, being that there's how many guys on the roster right now? 15, something like that.
Probably.
You're going to bring in a recruiting class. You're going to bring in a bunch of transfers. They're going to probably get close to the, whatever the number is, the 85 or whatever, right? So it's just going to be a very new look. And this is the nature of the sport, and we've been very fortunate to not have to experience this for a long time, but it kind of happens to everybody at some point. Eventually, Kirk Ferentz is going to retire, and the team out east is probably going to have to go through that, right? Nebraska kind of had that when Scott Frost got fired. They had to reset everything. Like, this is not something that is unique. I will say, though, it is wild. I don't know if you've seen this. It feels like this Iowa State example is kind of becoming a case study and gaining a lot of traction nationally. There were some congressmen last night that were tweeting about how, this current system is unsustainable, which I totally agree with. And I would love to see some federal legislation to just calm this storm in college football as a whole. Right. So yeah, I thought, I don't know if you saw, Ted Cruz tweeted about, he retweeted or quote tweeted a post about Iowa State, losing how many guys to the portal, and, demanded federal legislation now, and Ron DeSantis and some of these other guys, which, you and I are never a political pod, but I do think that some intervention from Congress just for the sport in general to put some guardrails on all this would really, really make a big difference and help a lot, because it's a mess right now.
Yeah, I'm going to contradict that. I think a lot of the points you made are valid, but for me, it's with the coach leaving situation, it makes sense. It's more so we need restrictions on, as we're seeing on the basketball side, I'm sure we'll hit on later, pro guys coming in or guys transferring and joining teams mid-season, or this willy-nilly transferring, whatever. I'm perfectly okay with you get recruited by a coach and that coach leaves, whether it's to take a better job, whether he gets fired, whatever it is, to follow your own path without repercussions. Because what you came to this school for is gone, as much as you do go to the school, because I think of it sometimes I went to Iowa State. I love the campus and stuff like that, but I went to go pursue my major. If my major got taken away, and I'm forced to stay at that school, that's kind of tough for me, and obviously I have to change things and stuff, but it's not what I want to do. It's not where I wanted to be. It's not where I pictured myself. I think of that similar, like the coach leaves, but if I'm a guy and I just go there and like I play well and I just go chase money, whatever it is. And there's no reason, like I go from, I take Caleb Love in my mind, although I know there's other stuff with it. But if you take the personal side out of it, and if he just goes North Carolina to Arizona for more money, like there's got to be something with that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think TJ Finley, 7 schools in 7 years. Like I get he's had 2 medical red shirts and an actual red shirt, but at the same time, it's like he's also left every single time. And like, is that a guy you really want in your locker room? And now there's stuff coming out where like he's been a terrible locker room guy at many schools. And so it's like I can understand, and I get the Iowa State one's tough because, we're a part of it. And it's like, well, we want some of our guys to stay, but it's like, if I go somewhere, like if you go to a restaurant and it's a great burger place and you show up and they say, we don't do burgers today, you're getting pasta and you're going to like it. It's like, well, I didn't come here to get pasta.
Mm-hmm.
I came here to get a good burger, and it's like, all right, now I get it. I'm going to go leave and I'm going to go get a burger somewhere else. Sure. That's my take on the situation.
Very good point. Yeah, very good point. I love the analogies. The major one specifically is good. Yeah, I think it very much is a larger college football topic as a whole, and college basketball too, because you mentioned you were alluding to the Baylor situation right now. I'm sure we'll talk about that later, but ultimately to put a bow on this conversation, yes, I love what you said. Iowa State's going to have a roster next year, and people are still going, as much as you emotionally, and I'm talking to the Twitter emotional Twitter fans, you're still going to show up next year. You're still going to buy tickets. You're still going to tailgate. Jack Trice Stadium is still going to be there, right? You're still going to, yell when Iowa State gets a first down and do the juicy wiggle, and all that stuff stays. And you just have to be willing to adapt with the new era, because it is different. It is very, very different now than, Paul Rhodes gets fired from Iowa State 10 years ago and Alan Lazard doesn't get the chance to transfer, so he sticks around, right? You don't have that anymore. So, what really sucks about this, Casey, is the football situation. You kind of have a Final Four contending basketball team that nobody seems to be talking about.
Yeah.
I think the college basketball fans certainly are, but Iowa State fans and just people in general, it doesn't feel like there's a ton of coverage for right now, ton of excitement. I think that'll change here once Big 12 play starts. And, that now that you've had this mass exodus in the football side, people will start to pay attention to basketball again. Let's talk about that. Cyclone's 13-0 right now, coming off of a victory against Houston Christian last night. 4th in Ken Palm. I don't know if they dropped last night or it was maybe after that. I don't know if it was Long Beach State or whoever it was. They're behind Michigan, Arizona, and Gonzaga. So currently 11th in offensive efficiency, 3rd in defensive efficiency. I haven't exactly been inspired by these last few matchups, but I don't think you can expect much. These are sleepy mid to late December games. Some of them occurred during finals week. Last night's game, I think the team is just ready to play some real teams again, right? That's what sucks about the scheduling component, is when you have these massive emotional victories against Purdue and Iowa, and then you have to, get up again for the Eastern Illinois of the world, the Houston Christians of the world. But I think as of now, this team has all the makings and is poised to make a run for a 1 seed. What are your thoughts right now on the Clones?
Yeah, like you said, it's a really unfortunate stretch of games. Funny enough, the only 2 teams with a worse opponent strength, or with the worst strength of schedule and opponent ratings in the Ken Palm top 25 are Iowa and Virginia, So it's kind of funny to see the state of Iowa taking the easy road and the new coach out at Virginia. But yeah, it's, you got your prep early. You got a lot of really good games early on in the season. And, now it's nice to kind of slow down. The issue with it is St. John's is not as good of a win as it was before. Creighton is not as good of a win as it was before, although it's trending back in the right direction. Syracuse, we haven't seen a lot of them. Purdue has shown that they're a really good team again, but now they question, is that the fluke game? I don't think so. I think Iowa State's that good, but a lot of people are like, maybe it's a fluke. Purdue just had a bad game, But the good news is we get to March and it's a Q1 win. No matter what way you look at it, it's a Q1 win. It's probably going to be one of the best Q1 wins in the country. And now you get into conference play and you start with West Virginia at home. It's a new team and it's a team that hasn't been the greatest, but they haven't been the worst. They're still trying to find their footing. And then you go to Baylor, and we don't know what that Baylor roster is going to look like right now. So that'll be interesting to see. But it's a good team. And then, that first stretch of games, there's nothing easy about it. West Virginia is the easiest one. I think Okie State at home is going to be tough. Lutz has that team in a really good spot right now. I think they're going to contend in this Big 12, not to win it, but I think they'll be a team that, they're going to go on the road and they're going to win 2-3 games that you didn't expect them to. They're going to win games at home this year, which was a big problem last year. You go to Kansas, and you just look down the slate. It's Big 12 conference play. We know what it is. We've been paying attention to this year in, year out. Nothing's going to be given, whether at home or on the road. You have to win your home games, and you got to go steal one on the road. That's kind of how it is. You could go like 8-0 at home and 0-8 on the road, and you kind of look at it and go, man, that's Big 12. There's a lot of tough places to play in here. You kind of hope you go 8-0 at home and 4-4 on the road, something like that. But you start losing those home games, you go 6-2, you go 5-3, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, now we got to go get 4 away games to kind of even it out and set us up to make a run in the Big 12 playoffs.
So I think your point brings up a question I wanted to ask you, because I really think that Iowa State's schedule is more favorable this year than it has been in previous years. I really like the month of January. There's still a lot of tough games on there, don't get me wrong, but you have such a great opportunity to get just a really good conference record under your belt, then heading into a tough month of February. But hopefully at that point, you're in such a good swing of things and have a lot of momentum that you can go and get some of those big wins in February as well. My question for you, and this isn't just specifically for Iowa State, but just for whoever wins the Big 12 this year, and again, we're back to 18 conference games this year because it was 20 last year, right? I think it was back to 18. What record in Big 12 play wins the Big 12 this year? What do you think?
18 games.
I'm sorry, that's kind of a, puts you
Tough
on the spot.
Yeah. We're going to see no one go perfect. I don't think we see, because what was last year? Do you know?
Well, so I know Houston has won the last couple. I want to say I could look last
Houston
year.
went 19-1 in conference.
Did they
Second
really?
place was Texas Tech at 15-5.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
So I don't think we're going to see that this year. I think 3 losses is going to win the conference. 15-3, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I really agree with you. Yeah. So, okay. The year prior, the 23-24 season, the last one we had 18 conference games, 15-3 won it. That was Houston. Now this is weird because they're showing the Arizonas and Colorados. They weren't in the league at that point in time, but yes, Houston won it that year at 15-3. Iowa State finished second at 13-5 in the league. So
yeah, I think it's a 3 loss. I think 4 puts you in the 2 seed. I think someone's got to get 1 loss, whether it's Arizona, Iowa State, BYU, Houston. But you look at the conference this year, I think this is the best the conference has been that I can remember.
mm-hmm.
Arizona is the number 1 team nationally. Iowa State knocked off a different number 1 team nationally and is contending right there. BYU's got the best player in the country right now. Depending on how you look at Boozer, I think Tabanza and Boozer, it's kind of week to week who does better. I think Boozer might have him in the long run, but Tabanza plays like it night in and night out. Any other year, I think Tabanza is better than Flag. Tabanza is better than the number 1 pick the year before. Houston's going to be Houston. They're going to win. They're going to grind you out at home. Oklahoma State's good this year. Not to the point where, like I said, they're going to win a ton of games on the road or anything, but Lutz is getting that program in the right spot. Baylor's a contender. Colorado's struggling. Kansas is good. Texas Tech is good. Christian Anderson might be the greatest guard in the country that shoots the ball. That kid just shows up night in and night out. TCU's got some upset victories. Arizona State's got some upset victories. Kansas State, we're good with them being last.
Still Joe Tang.
And Utah struggled last night against a good Washington team, but I think Utah isn't where they want to be right now. But you look at it, you've got 4? I think I've got 7 teams that I could say could win the conference. And I don't think that's crazy to say. I think you're gonna have 7 teams fighting for it. I think 1 or 2 will drop off due to injuries or just kind of production slowing down throughout the season. But this is going to be a bar fight of a conference.
100% agree. I agree with every point you made. I think the thing psychologically I'm having to still change in my mind is, I think back to the round robin days, when Texas and Oklahoma were still in the league and you played everybody twice. The Big 12 every year was pretty much always top to bottom really balanced. Yes, you had some of those really good Kansas teams. You had a couple of those Baylor teams that were just far and above the rest. But overall, it felt like any given night, every team had a chance, especially if you were one of those good teams playing on the road at one of the bottom teams. It was going to be a rock fight, right? I don't know if I don't think the conference is to that level anymore where it's top to bottom as good as it used to be. I think this is the most top heavy it's been maybe ever. Right. And I don't need to allude any more to that because you already ran through all those teams and it's my goodness, it is unbelievable how much talent there is at the top. And yes, when you get to the bottom, I think it's just, there's a few more games on every team's schedule where it's okay, this is probably, you should absolutely win this, right? For instance, Arizona, if you're hosting a Utah, if you're hosting a Kansas State, that you'll be favored by a lot. You should win without any problem. So yes, which is why I agree with you that 15-3 probably wins it. And I don't think anything below that, right? We used to see there were a couple of those years where it was round robin years where if you went 12-6, that could get you to win the league, right? 13-5. And it's okay, you're comfortably winning. And at that point, still with 5 losses, I think, 15-3 is probably the floor, right? Because, not all these teams play each other anymore. And a lot of these teams are going to have some easier nights, night in and night out, right? So it's there's going to be a lot of these teams that are 14-4, 15-3 right at the top. There could be a 16-2 this year. But it's an interesting conversation to have. And we'll obviously just keep on seeing how it plays out. But yeah, I think for Iowa State specifically, if you can go undefeated at home, which is possible this year, you put yourself in a really good spot. Then just go get some of these road games, set yourself up for a 14-4, 15-3 sort of situation. And then, you're right there on that 1-2 seed line in March, and put yourself in a good spot.
I don't think there's going to be a better month this coming year than when we get to March and we've got this gauntlet of a Big 12 play. And then the parity that I've seen so far across all conferences. When we get into March, I'm not going to go out there and put it on record 16 seed's going to win. But I think we're going to see some nasty upsets. I think this is going to be as top heavy and as good as these top teams are, you're going to get an Okie State at a 9 seed. And you're just going to not know what to do with them because they've got 1 loss right now. They've got a better strength of schedule than Iowa State does, and they've got one loss. I get they haven't played the top-heavy teams that Iowa State has, but that's a good team. UCF has one loss. There's 6 teams in the Big 12 with 1 or fewer losses heading into conference play. You know, and you look at some of these teams with 3 losses. Tech has played Duke and beat them. You know, Kansas has played some tough competition this year without Darren Peterson. I think, you know, these top teams, TCU's got a big upset. Like, I cannot wait to get to March, but I'm okay with waiting and watching through every single one of these conference games every single night.
Yeah, I don't think we're seeing all 4 1 seeds to the Final Four again this year. That's not happening for a second year in a row. There's a lot more parity in the sport this year than last year. Right?
Yeah.
And there's probably going to be an 8 or a 9 seed that knocks off that 1 seed in the round of 32. Like, that is very possible. You've just got some you just look at the Big 12 and some of these teams that are going to be in that 8-9 spot. I wouldn't want to play them in the second round, that first weekend. That sounds horrifying.
You might get a 4 seed Baylor, or a 3 seed BYU if they drop a couple games. Yeah. Like, those are 1 seed potential teams.
Yeah, when you get the best player in college basketball in Advanced, seeing, that team as a 3 seed, that is scary.
Yeah.
It reminds me of, I think, the year that Oklahoma State had Cade Cunningham, I think they were like a 6 seed. Yeah. And it was like, this team, they're not great outside of him, but they could make a deep run. It kind of feels that same way this year where you're going to have a lot of teams like that. Let's use this transition into just college basketball as a whole. Do you, obviously conference play in some conferences has begun, but officially gets underway this week. Do you have a pick to win the national championship as we turn the calendar to the new year, Casey?
I wish I could look at you with a straight face and say, I think this team's going to win it. I like what Arizona's done, but they've got flaws. And Kopete has had multiple games where he's been able to get shut down, but he's still fantastic. This is like the best freshman class I've ever seen. Like, the talent is just insane. And you could throw Killian Toure in that conversation with how good he's been. UConn looks good. They've got 1 bad loss, that's it. But UConn's going to be good again. Michigan was an early front runner for me that hey, they're going to win the conference, and I think Izzo's got the team to make a run again, but I don't think I could look at you with a straight face and say, not only is this team going to win the national championship, I don't even think I can tell you, this team's going to be in a Final Four. I think Nebraska's 12-0, Caleb. It's absurd this year. What are we doing? UCLA is 10-3. I'm looking down at some of these teams, and I'm like, what in the world is going on? Iowa's 11-2 with the lost Iowa State. The Big 10 is going to be good this year, not as good as the Big 12, but they're going to be good. The SEC, who the best team in the SEC is right now? It's Vanderbilt.
I was going to say, how about the Vanderbilt Commodores? They heard that Diego Pavia noise and backed up their boy.
They went from the worst team in every sport when we were kids to now we get to college and, we're just going to go try and win the conference every year and everything. Are we serious? Georgia's the 2 seed right now. Bama's got 3 losses, and South Carolina's 8-4. Florida's national champions 9-4 right now. They're a good team.
What is Kentucky's record? Where are they?
9-4, and they want what's his name fired right now.
Yeah, Mark Pope.
The fan base has gone all out on Pope.
Yeah, that's a bad situation.
No, it is. Man, what a year, what a March this is going to be. I think this is the only year where we're going to get to March and they're going to leave some of these 2 seed G5 teams out. And I'm going to be like, that's okay because this team's really good. It's not like we're arguing to put in an Iowa team that finished, second to last in the Big Ten anymore. Mm-hmm. Or Oklahoma, who wasn't even over 500, should get in. Over, back when it was Drake and Indiana State, and they had an absolute thriller of a championship game, and trying to leave one of them out, 2 1 and 2 loss G5 teams. that lose in the championship to each other, and we're only gonna put the champion in and not the other. I think this year the G5s look good as well. I've been got nothing else to do, so I've been watching those games, and I say that like when I have stuff to do, I won't be watching the games. But I think we're going to get to a situation where, a Bucknell is going to get left out, or like, let's say a Harvard or something like that, like a team that just pops off and looks great, and they're going to get left out for like a 500 Big 12 or Big 10 or SEC. And it's the first year I'm going to go, that's okay, because that's how good these top conferences are this year.
Right. There was that one year a couple seasons ago when everybody wanted both Drake and Indiana State from the Missouri Valley in the tourney, right? When they had when Indiana State had the minivan, Robbie Avila, and Indiana State didn't get in, and it sucked. And I still think they should have, but yeah, a year like this year, I don't think if the same situation held with those guys, with those teams, but you have all this parity in the high major conferences, I wouldn't argue for an Indiana State to get in. This year is definitely different on that front. You have so much more talent at the top, where even like last year, that North Carolina team snuck in with one quad one win. That, this year, like, to me, that could make a little more sense for any team, to get to that point, just because, again, there's just so much more talent at the top and across the board. So the Baylor situation, we got to talk about this.
We do.
Scott Drew, what are we doing, buddy? Gaming the system. And nobody can do anything about it. For those who don't know, Baylor went out and recruited, is it James Najee, who was drafted in the NBA draft. Who did he even get drafted to?
First pick in the second round. I want to say he was Charlotte. He was almost a first-round pick.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, Charlotte Hornets,
first-round draft.
31st overall.
And he is going to enroll at Baylor this next semester to play the rest of the college basketball season with the Baylor Bears. That is absurd. And I'm sure he will be very, locked in on his academics as well. Like that, here's a guy that is excited to go do school. There's no way that guy's doing any sort of school for a semester. That is not happening. So yeah, absurd situation, but the NCAA doesn't have any power to do anything about it. All these district judges across the country have prevented them from using executive power on a situation like this. And Scott Drew basically said, he was like, I'm just doing what's legal. And I guess when you put it that way, yeah, it's the fault of the system, not necessarily the guy. It is legal. And, but this is just, again, another situation of the NCAA being absolutely powerless. This is where we need federal action for something like this.
Yeah. This is, not even bending the rules. This is complying with it, like malicious compliance, like if you're going to allow this is your rules. We're going to do it until you change it. The rule that he's referencing and that the NCAA brought up is he didn't play a game professionally. And that's what we consider. He didn't play a game in the NBA. He played summer league and he played G League, but he didn't play a true NBA game. So it doesn't count. The guy was traded. So it's just absolutely bonkers. Yeah, he was in the Towns. He's been on like 4 teams. He was in the Towns and Randall trade that I famously saw Julius Randle on the plane that day, which was hilarious.
That's crazy.
But at the same time, it's like, I always thought it was when you declared, there was like, you could declare for the draft. And then there was that one day, like this hard date where it was like, okay, if you haven't withdrawn by this date, you can't come back, and maybe that's just the NBA draft being like, well, once you reach this date, you can't pull out. And maybe that's what it was. And I misinterpreted it as once you get here, you're pro now, like doesn't matter. And there's a lot of guys that didn't play NBA games that might come back. There's probably a bunch of guys sitting in the G League right now, like, okay, I can earn a minimum contract or I can go get paid $1 million to play college basketball.
Right.
And it's like, I know what I would pick if I was them. That's life-changing money, a chance to reinsert yourself in a better situation. Like,
oh yeah, these guys would be making 10x what they're making in the G League just by playing one season of college basketball.
Yeah. And the other question is, what is pro ball? What do we determine these European leagues to be? What do we determine the South American leagues? Are they professional or not? G League Ignite. You remember that being a huge thing? And
oh, yeah.
I mean, there's guys that were in it that haven't played in the NBA. They're still in G League or they went over to Europe, It's like, well, can they come back and play college ball? And you want to talk about who, outside of the fans, who this is the worst for? It's the high school players. Why would I go and recruit a high school senior when I can go out and get a guy who's been playing in the G League for a year, and he's got pro level, you don't even have college level experience, right? It's going to start being, I'm going to go recruit G Leaguers. If I can't get them, I'm going to go get transfer portal kids. If I can't go get them, I'm going to go get European kids. If I can't go get them, then I guess I'll bring in a freshman, I mean, you're going to have 4-star talent having no choice, 3-star talent having no choice, but they're going D2 or JUCO because D1 schools don't want to recruit them because they have no incentive to recruit them. Unless you're a 5-star player, I'm going to go get a G Leaguer, a transfer portal kid, and a European kid instead. You can go develop elsewhere, and you might just get lost in the fray.
And then what happens is all these guys, all these high school recruits end up committing to, the Missouri Valley schools, the other, mid-major schools, and then get poached after 1 year to go to bigger schools. And yeah, there's just not a lot of continuity at all. So yeah, this is a crazy situation. I couldn't believe it when I saw that headline the other day.
Me either.
But college sports is just, nothing is really a surprise at this point. It shouldn't be, for that matter. Well, let's see. So quarterfinals in the college football playoffs this week. I don't know about you. I'm a massive Red Raider fan this week. Huge Red Raider fan. Go
wreck 'em.
Yep. Go Joey McGuire and the gang. Baron Morton.
Do we want to pick games? I had these for picks if we wanted to.
Let's do it. I love that.
We'll start off with, Wreckham, Texas Tech, taking on Oregon.
So yeah, I'm gonna take the Red Raiders here, and I really think, this could be a Big 12 bias pick, but I really think that Texas Tech just has such a complete roster. I loved what they did from a roster building standpoint, back in the spring this past year, where instead of going out and trying to get the best quarterback they could, they stuck with Baron Morton, with their guy. They have that backup, Will Hammond, and they said, we're just going to allocate all this money we got from Cody Campbell and the big oil donors to getting a really good defense and some good skill position guys. And they've just built around, they kept Baron Morton in house and built around him. And I think they have the best defense in college football. I think this Oregon team is really good. I thought things were pretty shaky though against James Madison late in that game. And it could have just been they were up by so much and then kind of let their foot off the gas pedal. But I'm going to take the Red Raiders here in a big one for the Big 12. The Big 12 needs it right now more than ever. You need this Texas Tech team to deliver some big performances. I got them beating the Ducks here in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, without a doubt. I'm going to take Texas Tech as well. You hit on it on the nail. It's a great defense. O-line got beefed up, and they said, hey, we're going to stick with our guy. And I thought he's done a great job. But more importantly, they've got the best defensive player in the country and a guy I thought should have been in the Heisman conversation, and Jacob Rodriguez. Dude's a killer, man. He's just an absolute a hard-nosed linebacker. Plays he can get downhill, he can drop in coverage occasionally. Like he's a fun guy to watch.
Oh
I
yeah.
think he'll be a great NFL talent in the future, and he is going to make a statement against Oregon. And I don't think anybody would be more excited outside of Texas Tech fans than us for Texas Tech to win this because of what it means to the Big 12. And, I think back to TCU beating Big 10 champion Michigan. That's kind of where I'm at. And I get Oregon's not the Big 10 champion and they're still a good team and stuff like that. But at the same time, I'm like, Texas Tech, like, the Big 12 has been slandered too long. We've got a team that can contend, and I think they need to go out and win at least one game. And I think they're in a solid position to go do it.
100% agree. It's got to happen this year. I got a question for you. What was the last year that the Big 12 won the national championship?
Texas in 2005.
You nailed it, my friend.
Really? I knew it was right around my birthday.
Wow. Well done. That was impressive.
That was the Texas USC game, wasn't it?
It was the Vince Young magical game-winning touchdown. It's been 20 years since the Big 12 has won the national championship.
And it was Texas.
Yeah. And awesome. So, yeah, does that even count? I mean, if we're going to go before that, yeah, you like Oklahoma won it in 2000, not part of the Big 12 anymore. Nebraska won it in their little heyday there, not in the Big 12 anymore. There's not a current team in the Big 12, I think, that has won the national championship since Colorado in 1990 is what I'm seeing.
Big 8.
Yeah, exactly. So not even the Big 12 at that point. There's whatever. No matter how you shake it up, it's bad. And this Texas Tech team can do it, can get this conference up off the deck and make a big statement.
Yeah, without a doubt. We head over to the second game, Alabama, Indiana, something that we did not expect to be saying probably 2 years ago for a college football playoff game.
No, we did not. We did not, and I certainly would not have expected Indiana to have number 1 by their name and Alabama to have number 9. Like, that makes it even crazier. And I'm going to take the Hoosiers here and Fernando Mendoza and Curt Cignetti in their squad without too much thought behind it. I just think that they are a really, really good football team. It sucks that I would have loved to have seen a Texas Tech Indiana national championship, and we're not going to get that because if these two teams win, they're going to play each other in the semifinals. That is a major bummer. But I've got the Hoosiers winning here.
Yeah, I am going to take the Hoosiers as well. I think they're just clicking on all cylinders right now. It is a really good team. They don't really have a flaw. Like, you look at them and they're like, oh, that's a 3-star, or, oh, that guy came over and played for James Madison. Yeah, and he's playing at a higher level than Ohio State kids that are these 5-star generational players, right? Or he's better than these Alabama transfers they're getting that are the top, players from the Big 12 coming over. Like, Indiana, Curt Cignetti is doing it right, and they're getting rewarded for it. They're not going out there and, they're going to get some guys. They got Mendoza from the portal, but he's got a lot of homegrown talent, a lot of guys that were overlooked throughout their careers or followed him from James Madison. And, like, it has been great to watch. That's for sure. Flipping to the bottom half of the bracket, 6 seed versus 3 seed, Ole Miss, Georgia, in the Who Had Lane Kiffin Bowl.
This is a really good way of describing it, Casey. I love the label for this game. This is going to sound like really bad analysis, but I think there has to be one. I don't think it's going to be total chalk in the semifinals, which means I think there's going to be an upset here, and I think it's going to be in this game. I don't know. I have not been blown away by Georgia all season long. Like I get they've had some nice wins here and there. The way they handled Alabama in the SEC championship. They've beaten some good teams. I get it, but nothing about them has really blown me away by any means. And I think this Ole Miss team really is something they're playing for right now. And you alluded to it with the Lane Kiffin situation and him bolting, going to LSU, and with his team literally being in the playoffs and having a chance to make a national championship run. And that to me is going to compel me to pick them to win this game over Georgia. I think Georgia's probably the better team, but I like the chip on Ole Miss's shoulder that I think they're playing with. They demonstrated that against Tulane. How good is Tulane against Ole Miss? I don't know, but I'm going to go with the Rebs.
I'm going to take Georgia. I'm going to stay chalk so far. I agree with that. Like, there's bound to be a slip up. And what was it last year? 2 of these play-in games, 1 or something like that. And I think, especially with knowing the coaching staffs, they're going to over-prepare now for that, especially Kirby Smart. Like, he's going to over-prepare this game, and he's going to allude back to last year and be like, hey, a lot of these teams, they got wins. We can't let that happen. We can't be caught asleep. We can't ease through the week of practices. And I'm sure that's kind of been the mantra for them. And they know they're the better team. They've got a ton of advantages when you look at it. But Ole Miss, like you said, they've got something to play for. They've got that chip on their shoulder, and especially like the coordinators. A lot of these guys were, this is Lane Kiffin's. That was that famous quote with their OC was, he's just running Lane Kiffin's offense. And now he's doing it himself. And even the new head coach said that. He's like, everyone had talked about, he's just doing what Lane Kiffin wants, and then now he does it on his own. He does it perfectly well. And he's going to go follow Lane Kiffin anyways to LSU, and he's going to be really good. Because I don't think he took the Tulane job yet. I can't remember. But I know he was the top candidate.
Right.
I think Georgia gets it done. I really like this Ole Miss roster, and I think if Kiffin was still there, I would give it to them. But I'm going to give it to Georgia because that is chaotic, a hectic situation, and the head coach, he's not prepared for that. Like, nothing against him, but like he's kind of being thrown in the deep end early on against Kirby Smart. But it's going to be a great experience for him. We head to the last one.
Big one. Do we know what our overall pick records are for this year?
Yes. I 16-20. You are 13-23. I'm 3 games ahead.
Wow. Okay. This is the year of Casey Schieschler.
The year of the least picks as well. Maybe we'll tune it back up when we hit.
Yeah, we haven't picked too many, have we? I want to say like our first year, and we even started picks late, and we still had like close to, I don't know, like
we had
50 or 60
89
by the end of the year. Huh?
89 picks our first year.
Wow.
And then we had, hold on, I gotta do
probably
126 last year.
Wow.
We were at 33 this year. I think we'll get up to a decent number.
We will. Consistency in college basketball will allow for us to do that.
Yep. And then we head to the last one, Ohio State, Miami. What do you got?
I'll take the Buckeyes here. Still think they're a really good team. I think Julian Sayin is a really good quarterback. And, I mean, he just got so many dudes around him. That receiving core is unbelievable. I thought Miami's defense obviously played really well against A&M. But I just think this Ohio State team is far more complete. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if Miami, now having a game under their belt, a little less rusty than Ohio State, maybe comes out with an early lead. But I think Ohio State finds a way to weather the storm and get the job done in this one.
Yeah, I think if there was going to be an upset, this is my favorite pick. I'm going to stay with Ohio State, though. I thought Miami looked really good. And, I'm not the biggest fan of Miami, so me saying that is a lot. Ohio State, I feel like they've got a lot to play for. Losing to Indiana being their last game, and now they've just had to sit with that for a few weeks, and that's just in their head. And I know that kicker, with how that game went, is probably upset. And saying, probably thinking here and there, I could have done this and that, that entire roster. I know that's how Ryan Day gets them to think. Like, we've seen it over the years. That's why he won a national championship. He's getting them to think the right way, and he's getting them to be angry and upset. And
they find bulletin board material wherever they can, whether it be 90-year-old Lou Holtz or whoever.
He's going to go. Who's the guy that sits on the Miami sideline now and he's going crazy? I blanket on his name. Michael Irvin, maybe.
Oh yeah.
He's gonna throw that on the bulletin board and like, all right, we need to make him quiet for the whole game, and that's what they're gonna do because they buy into what he does.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's rip our not 3 for 3 and 3 for 3 and call it a day, eh?
Let's do it.
Sweet.
My not 3 for 3. I know we did a full segment on it, but it's so bad I got to hit on it again. It's the NCAA's lack of backbone and just what's going on with players joining basketball right now. Because now if you think of this, well, what's that going to mean for football? What's that going to mean for baseball? Baseball's got so many minor leagues. How many players actually make it pro? You got all these guys coming out of high school. They're just going to turn around and go play for Florida State and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's going to be a whole different experience now.
Yeah. Like, in hindsight, if Shedeur Sanders doesn't play for the Browns this year and is just on the practice squad, like, can he come back and re-enroll at Colorado or some other school?
Yeah.
That'd be crazy. We actually also you briefly alluded to my not 3 for 3. It's Georgia State quarterback TJ Finley entering the portal to seek his 7th school. That's unbelievable. No matter how you shake it up, that's crazy. 7 schools is just ridiculous. Yeah. 1 school every year.
It's unreal.
I don't even know how you would enjoy that. Like, that sounds horrible.
Well, he's not in it for school.
No, you're right.
But he's probably not showing up to classes if he's been to 7 different schools.
Yeah, that just is crazy. Let's talk about some good things to round out the pod.
It's a guy I don't give much credit to. It's building on my not 3 for 3, but John Calipari went on an absolute tear the other day about the current state of college basketball recruiting and these pro guys coming in and stuff like that, and just rip the NCAA and stuff like that. And now he's like, well, now I got to rethink everything I do. He's like, I got to go sit down and talk with Scott Drew and stuff like that. And then I got to rethink how I do things, because either the NCAA is going to keep rolling over and letting this happen and everyone's going to exploit it. So if I don't, then, it's my job on the line, or the NCAA does something about it and finally steps up and changes the rules. So a guy that I've never been too fond of making the right call at the right time to the right people. Extremely
rare John Calipari debut.
Because he can't get one in March.
Nope. That's for sure. My number 3, shout out to our guy, Dave Aranda, is still at Baylor. This doesn't matter to anybody other than us, but I feel like he's become such a meme on our pod this year, and they went 5-7 and really had a horrible final stretch of their season, and he's still there. Shout out to the GOAT.
Shout out. And he might land DJ Lagway. That'll get him to 7-5 and buy him another year.
Yes, it will.
I can feel it.
100%. Yep. 7-5 with a win in the Rate Bowl.
Yep. The Frosted Flakes Bowl. Can we talk about how good before? It's not part of my 3 for 3. Pop-Tarts Bowl, once again, the greatest bowl of all time.
Like, it is.
Gameplay and like marketing and branding and everything is the best.
I might as well just say it because that's my number 2. And it's the fact, yes, you're right. It's the fact, though, that the Big 12 is 3-0 in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, which we all know is the actual undisputed national championship.
Yeah. Murdering a beloved toasted, I don't even know what you call them other than a Pop-Tart. Like, I don't know if there's like a medical name for what a Pop-Tart is. Like a culinary name, I guess it's a better word than medical, but like a toasted pastry, I guess you could go with.
There we go.
How about the other one jumping off the back, though? Did Do you see that where he jumped
Yeah.
over the side of it and he said he will be back next year? So
that was really good. I think the Big 12 is 3-0 against the ACC in this game because I think K-State beat NC State in year one. Iowa State beat Miami.
BYU beat Georgia Tech. Yeah, 3-0.
Wow.
ACC's
Wow.
0-3 in the national championship.
I mean, and some people still question who the third best conference is in the sport, and those
let alone
just
the
a reminder
first
that those
best.
people are not serious people.
Yeah, I don't think the SEC or the Big Ten has a Pop-Tarts Bowl win.
True. Yeah. So yeah, it really is who's the best conference.
There's a whole lore around this. Like I'm waiting for a cinematic movie to drop too. Like this has just been outstanding.
If anybody would do it, Pop-Tarts would do it.
They would. My number 2, Concanipple, sets the record for fastest player to 103s in the NBA. And it's a record that might not be broken. It was 41, Caleb. How many games do you think it took him to get 103s?
Well, 35?
29. 29 games to get 103s. Beats the record by 12. That's ridiculous. Everyone always says like, oh, these records like will live on or whatever. Dude, that might be the one right there. That is some nasty stuff.
Who had the record before him? I'm sorry to put you on the spot there. That's crazy though. I
had it. It was Lauri Markkanen.
Oh,
I knew that. He was Keegan Murray was actually tied for second with Luka Doncic at 42. So it was like 45, 42, 42, 41. Now it's 29.
Wow. I'll just do my number 1 then, since I did my number 2 already. I'm sure you probably saw this, the video of Army's Jeff Monken, the head coach, running all over the field to try and escape the Gatorade after winning the Fenway Bowl. That was pretty awesome. That was that was sweet to see. It was very funny. Little heartfelt moment in college football.
That was great. But speaking of that, our last podcast was the Army-Navy preview. Navy gets it done. It's another one,
Casey.
man.
Congrats.
It's the biggest matchup on the second biggest matchup. We've got Army-Navy and we've got Kansas-Iowa State, and you could argue which one's bigger for us, but Army-Navy gets it done. Again, better school. I don't make the rules here, Caleb.
Can't forget about Elkhorn North.
I can't. with how these rosters are looking, like basketball might be all right. Other than that, no.
That's okay.
Elkhorn doesn't exist athletically anymore.
We talk our 10 minutes of the year Elkhorn versus Elkhorn sports whenever Chase hops on. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I have to mention this.
Yeah,
quick.
You have to.
Yeah. This morning, as Casey and I were doing prep for the pod, I was going back and I was reading the transcript for our podcast with Chase Rue. I don't know. Some people probably listened to it. It was back in November. A lot of it was preview for the college basketball season, but we did talk some coaching topics. And actually, that was in October. That was like late October is when that happened. And I made a fateful statement. Chase was asking us about Matt Campbell, which, I mean, at that point in time, he was comfortably the head coach of the Iowa State Cyclones. And the transcript showed me this one this morning, which really, really hurt me on the inside. This is a quote, word for word from me. It says, Casey, we briefly mentioned it on here. You and I have. In terms of Matt Campbell, I'm much more concerned about him and the potential Wisconsin job than I am the Penn State job. Wow. That's brutal.
Irony, man.
It's kind of like when I jinxed Caleb Love last year when he hit the half quarter against Iowa State.
Yeah.
Maybe I just shouldn't talk anymore. Maybe I shouldn't say anything.
He might be done for the year.
That's bad. Anywho, go ahead on your last one.
My number 1, it was a while ago, it was a couple weeks ago, but still within the podcast frame. Unranked Washington upsets number 15 NC State to win men's soccer national championship in OT, back-to-back OT games for the Natty. With Vermont the year before, Washington gets it done now. Love to see it.
Huge. Go Huskies.
Huge Huskies.
Big Husky fans. Well, good stuff, Casey. Good to be back. We'll try and make this more consistent here in the big 2026. I'm sure we will. Always a pleasure, my friend. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to all. Thanks for tuning in. Reminder, Iowa State will have a roster next year. Okay? Just deep breaths. It'll be okay. And no matter what happens, the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors are your 2025 winners of the
Hawaii Bowl.
Hawaii Bowl, of course. Thanks,
Aptly
Casey.
named for the winners.
Yes. I mean, you knew they were going to win it going into it. Thank you all for listening. Catch you guys next time.